Okay, let's see. It's only been a week. That's off, that's off, that's off. That's on. Good to go. Hello! Shadowcat back! And I had a week off and suddenly I've forgotten how all of this works. It's alright, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. We're gonna make it through this. Okay, we are starting something new today. We're starting something I've been thinking about for a long time. And when I say a long time, I mean like years. And that is how to do anime in tabletop. This one's going to be a challenge. And it's going to be a challenge just because when it comes to anime, there's rules. Okay, every single anime that comes out, any good story that comes out has rules. And I think that we've established that doing all the modules that we've done. Every module that we've done is only possible because internally there are sets of rules that make every setting work. And if you don't have that, then you're basically just, you're kids playing in the sandbox. You're making up as you go along. Things are not consistent, things don't make sense, and eventually either everyone just, doesn't have fun and walks away, or somebody gets sand in their eyes. So every world has to have rules. The problem with anime is that the rules are a little more vague and the numbers get a whole lot bigger. So I've wanted to take a crack at seeing if I could actually ground this to earth and make it work for a long time. And so that's what we're going to do today. Or at least that's what we're going to try and do today, because today we're starting on the anime framework. Now this is going to be a baseline of rules that we're going to be able to build from. And that might not make a whole lot of sense right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to create a scaffolding. We are going to work on character creation, we are going to work on environmental rules, we're going to work on power systems, things of that nature. We're going to do this so that then, if we decide to go on and do another type of specific anime, we'll be able to see or use this as the launching point to say, okay, we've already established how a character can pick up a mountain, but now let's build Goku. Okay? That's what we want to do. I want to be able to say, okay, you know what? We've already got the rules for how we're going to build a character. How do we build Edward Elric and make him work in our setting? Not in some, let's bend the character to make the, to fit in the setting, but how do we bend the setting to actually make the character as he should be? That's the goal. So, before we get into that, of course, I have people in chat. I see that Alden is in. Hello, Alden. It's been a while since I've seen you. Always good to see you. Blizz is here too. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you as well. Alden says, I'm curious to see how you tackle this exactly, because anime is more of a medium rather than a specific franchise. Yes! Yes, it is. However, let me just explain what we're going to be doing here. So, you're right. Anime is a medium and not a franchise. And for the most part, there is nothing that I need to do. So, let's just take a look. Let's take a quick look at what we've got here, okay? Because what we have here on screen is a nice collage that I found of a lot of the primarily Shonen Jump anime, although there's a few others that are in there. And there's one in there that I noticed right away. Actually, two that I notice in there right away that do not belong in what I'm building here. The two of them are Himura Kenshin and Light Yagami. And if you don't know who they are, let me bring in my browser. And I may as well bring in my spreadsheet that we're going to be working on at the same time. So, who am I talking about here? I can't scroll up far enough. Let me just drag this down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so this guy right here, this is Himura Kenshin. Himura Kenshin is from the anime Rurouni Kenshin. Takes place in feudal Japan. Good anime. I've watched it. I had fun with it. And back here, this is Light Yagami from Death Note, which takes place in modern-day Japan. Also, very good anime. Loved it. I recommend going to watch it. The thing about these two, though, is that I do not actually need special rules for them. Now, Himura Kenshin is considered the greatest swordsman in his setting, and Light Yagami is a genius in his setting. But both of them are otherwise normal people. Okay? Himura is the absolute best swordsman there is, but there's nothing superhuman about him. I mean, he's probably got at least an 18 in strength, he's got at least an 18 in dex, and his constitution is probably also an 18, but there's nothing beyond that. And keep in mind that, 18s and all those is already like peak human. Other than that, though, he uses a regular sword, he uses regular sword feats. There's nothing that I have to do. If I wanted to play a Rurouni Kenshin setting, all we have to do is just come back to Pathfinder rules and run it. The only difference is I'm going to swap out most of the normally Western equipment for mostly Eastern equipment, and we're good to go. And JP's here. Hello, JP. Good to see you. Alden says, Light is a regular teenager with high intelligence and a crazy powerful artifact. And that's exactly what I was going to get into next. If instead we wanted to do Death Note. Well, the thing about Death Note is that there's nothing special about Death Note. With one exception, and that is the Death Note itself and technically the Shinigami. Okay? So, with Death Note, all we have to do is have a modern setting. I would honestly probably use Starfinder for that. Just because Starfinder has a lot more modern equipment. We would strip out the starships and the laser weapons and everything like that. We would stick to strictly analog weapons, terrestrial vehicles, but we would have electricity, we would have phones, we'd have everything else. Beyond that, I just need the rules of the actual Death Note itself, which, the rules for the Death Note are literally written down in the series. I need to make rules for a Shinigami, that's just a spirit, and we can go play Death Note. So I'm not building those. Those are already basically done. And, let's see, JP says, since Shadow won't bring cookies, I'm making breakfast. Who's hungry? I'm hungry! I didn't have any cookies today. I'd like 2 eggs over hard. And Bliss says Light would be a summoner in Pathfinder. Not quite. Not quite, actually, because summoners in Pathfinder summon Eidolons. And their Eidolons are not spirits. They are physically there. They can touch you. They can punch you. And they do. As far as I know, the Shinigami in Death Note cannot interact with the mortal world. As far as I know. And again, it's a little bit weird, because I do know that at least Ryuk loves apples, and if he's eating an apple, the apple appears to be floating. Which is, kind of funny sometimes, but I don't know how much he can actually interact with the world. In general, he either can't or he doesn't. So there's nothing we really have to do there. We would have to have rules for the Shinigami's eyes, but otherwise it's a normal setting. So we don't need to do those. We don't need to do those at all. Primarily, what I want to build is the framework to do everything else in here. because when we're talking about like the big four, so Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, we're talking about characters who are super strong, super tough, super everything else. Not usually super intelligent, but at least strength, dexterity, and constitution, we're going to have to take a really hard look at and see how do we scale them up. Okay? And then we'll start looking at things like environmental rules. So let me go ahead and push this back up. There we go. And we're going to start working on how do we actually build this. So first off, let me give this a quick format, because I like to use Arial Black, and I need to make it big enough for me to actually read it. There we go. So, anime foundations. First things first. Character creation. We need to make some super, super tough characters. We need to make characters who are strong. And what does that imply? Well, they need to be able to lift. Okay? So, to this end, super strength. Because there is no character who does not have super strength. Even if they don't necessarily show it in day-to-day life. When it comes to somebody like Goku, yeah, Goku can lift. We know he can lift. We've seen him lift. But most people don't just go out and do lifting because, you know, they can. Most people show their strength by the feats that they do. You know, the fact that they can punch somebody and throw them, you know, across a room or even across an entire battlefield. So, we're going to have to talk about the ability to move people. Okay. Because that's the thing. Sometimes, when we're watching something like Dragon Ball Z, Goku can walk up to somebody and punch them. And it's just a punch. Sometimes he punches people, and he sends them careening across the battlefield. We'll have to explore exactly how we're going to differentiate when we do that, but the fact is that if it is done, we have to figure out how we're going to do it. So, super strength and the ability to move people if we want. Then, I think we're going to need to get into dexterity. Now, with dexterity, normally dexterity has several roles, which is why I usually prioritize dexterity on my characters more than anything else. Dexterity is your armor class, dexterity is your reflex save, dexterity is many of your skills. So, how are we going to do this one? Well, dexterity could also be our speed, because we're going to need to get people to move fast. Like, really fast. So, dexterity is going to be a possible speed bonus. Other than that, though, I don't see us needing to really change dexterity any more than what it already is. It does enough already, and we do want to be careful not to overload any specific stat. Stats are more or less balanced, but if you start putting or attaching too many caveats to one stat, you make that stat kind of the omnipresent only stat needed. We don't want to do that. So dexterity already handles a lot, giving it a potential speed bonus. We'll think about it. So then what else do we need? We're going to need Constitution. So Constitution is going to give us, of course, our hit points. It already does that. It gives us our fortitude save. That's good too. However, since we're making super strong characters, one thing that we're going to need to make them is super tough. So, I think that for Constitution, we're going to need to have some kind of damage reduction. And we need to have some kind of damage reduction because it's very, very common across all of these different anime that the normal world does not affect them. When it comes to something like Dragon Ball Z, the characters in Dragon Ball Z have been shot by guns on multiple occasions. And it's not even that the guns don't hurt them, it's that they don't notice. Even when you talk about the lesser characters in Dragon Ball, like Krillin, who is generally regarded as being either the bottom or second from the bottom in terms of power. I would argue second from the bottom because Yamcha's the bottom. Krillin can get shot in the face and he doesn't care. He doesn't feel it. Bullets don't do anything. I'm a little hesitant to bring this up, but Luffy down here has been shot by cannons. It's a little bit weird because Luffy's also made out of rubber. So, yeah, it makes more sense, but the fact remains that he's been shot with a cannon. And Alden says, I've never seen any of the big four, so I can't really comment on it. It's okay. It's okay. I'm sure that you probably picked up at least a little bit from the internet in general to know some of this. But if you haven't, it's alright. Learning anime knowledge for this is not going to be required. As long as you have a cursory knowledge of at least what anime is like, you got it. Anyway, Naruto over here. Naruto, when the series started off, was about ninjas being ninjas. They used skills for infiltration, they carried tools. They were, you know, operatives. And they were working like operatives. Once you get to the end of the series, when you have people that are running around in giant chakra mechs and throwing, you know, energy attacks that can level literal mountains, suddenly throwing a ninja star at somebody doesn't do much. That's why Ten is so kind of hilarious, because her gimmick was that she was a master of ninja tools. And halfway through the series, ninja tools stopped mattering. So the point is that they have to be super, super tough. Which is why Constitution, I think, is going to give some kind of damage reduction. The literal ability to just shrug off bullets. Now, getting into some of this other stuff. Intelligence. Specifically, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma together. And let's see. JP says, please tell me there is no throttle mechanic where it takes 1.5 sessions to build a spirit bomb. Well, actually, we are going to get to that, okay? It's not going to take 1.5 sessions to build a spirit bomb. But we are going to have charge mechanics. We are going to have charge mechanics. And Alden says, oh, I guess she couldn't scale well, huh? Poor thing. Well, okay, so, like, the thing about anime is that people love to obsess over anime, and I am no different, especially when it comes to Naruto. And people like myself tend to agree that, especially in Naruto, a lot of characters got left behind hard. So in Naruto, when the series started, all the main characters were students at the Ninja Academy. And they were called the Konoha 12. And I'm not going to go through each one of them. All I will say is that Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were the main three characters. Obviously, Naruto's name is on the title screen. By the end of the series, they were the only three that actually mattered anymore. Everybody else had super cool abilities, but they just all got left behind. And it's not that they couldn't have scaled. They could have scaled in very interesting ways. The creator just didn't want to. And so he didn't. Which I personally do not understand why. That's just the way it was. JP says, I liked Inuyasha. Okay, that's fair. Alden says, most shonen pro tags are dumbasses. Right, and that gets us back into what we're talking about. Intelligence. When we're looking at most of our protagonists here, yeah, intelligence is not generally their forte. So Goku, not known for being smart. Naruto, also not known for being smart. Luffy, no. Ichigo is a literal high school student. Inuyasha is illiterate. Zatch Bell down here is not even human, but just, yeah, okay. Yugi Moto down here, also not terribly smart, although he's probably smarter than average. The only one is, he's cut off up here, but there's Lelouch, V. Britannia from Code Geass. He's a literal genius. However, okay, I have to kind of sidestep this for a moment. If we go into, see, I'm not used to using the Archive of Nethys for Pathfinder, so I'm not sure where everything is here. Afflictions, hazards, classes, DDs, equipment, FAQs. Let me just come down here to rules then. How to play ability scores. Here we go. This does not show me the actual grids for this. Okay, that's fine. Go back. There we go. We'll just use this one then, because I like this one better anyway. Ability scores. Let's see. JP says Zatch Bell was interesting. Blizz says never watched it. I didn't actually watch it either. I saw a few episodes of it and then decided that it wasn't for me. And that's fine. I mean, you don't have to like everything. Goodness knows. Looking at this thing here, if I had to go through these, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. However, I recognize the boxing gloves. I know there's a boxing anime, but I don't like boxing, so I don't want to watch it. I like Dragon Ball Z fine. That is, if I remember right, Gon from Hunter x Hunter. And the only reason is because I'm relatively sure, because I've seen like the first, I think, 3 episodes of Hunter x Hunter, but I haven't continued with it. Was that supposed to be Guts? Actually, that could be his sword right there. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's probably Guts. That's probably Guts. And I haven't seen Berserk either. And the boxer is from Hajime no Ippo. Yeah, I don't even know that name. Definitely haven't seen it. So anyway, yeah, I believe that's Gon from Hunter x Hunter. I tried watching it. It wasn't terrible. I do kind of want to get back into it. It just hasn't grabbed me. Like the other day, I sat down and finally watched Frieren. Oh my god. Like if you don't watch... Hold on, I gotta stop myself here. If you like fantasy gaming at all, like if you have ever played Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, ever in your life, you need to go watch Frieren. because Freerun is an anime that basically takes an entire tabletop campaign and puts it on the screen. And it is glorious. I cried several times. It was so good. Especially given that I am a wizard. Okay, I am a wizard player. And Freerun is a mage. Now, I actually sat down and analyzed the mages from Freerun, and they are a very interesting combination of both wizard and sorcerer. But the fact is that they played it so honestly that I have never seen wizards be represented better than I did in Freerun. So gotta do it. And Alden says, I like Freerun, I don't love it. Alright, that's fair. You don't have to love everything. You also said, the only ones I've seen on here are Gintama. I haven't seen that one. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I watched it. Death Note. I watched it. And 40 episodes of One Piece. Good job. Only 39,960 to go. You'll get it. You'll get there. All said, I prefer Dungeon Meshi. I don't know that one. But let's see. That's obviously Naruto up there. I don't know who this guy is right here. I know he's kind of cut off on the screen. I want to say that's Baki, though? Probably? I'm not positive. Obviously, that's Luffy from One Piece. I have no idea who this guy is. That's Zatch from Zatch Bell. That is... I have no idea, but, you're from... Crap. I know this one. I knew this one. I forgot this one. But I know who this is. And of course, down here in the corner, we got Yu-Gi-Moto, which I did not watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any of the 17 billion offshoots that came from it. Inuyasha, I think I've seen all of Inuyasha. Obviously, this is Edward Elric over here. He's cut off, but the guy here in green, this is Yu Yu Hakusho. Or, no, that's the name of the show. His name is... I don't remember. I didn't like Yu Yu Hakusho. I didn't. I really just could not stand it. Alden says, Fairy Tail. Yes, that was it, and I couldn't think of it. I don't remember his name, but yes, he's from Fairy Tail. So, okay. Anyway, getting back to what we were doing. Intelligence. Looking at most of these characters here, none of these characters are particularly intelligent, and for that, I want to go back to the intelligence scores, because what this page has that the other one doesn't is these descriptions. So I want to come down here and actually look at some of these. So, for example, we looked at strength. Now, 10 strength right here. This is average, and it says can literally pull, specifically pull their own weight. When we look at what you can pull, we have to look at carrying capacity. So carrying capacity depends on a lot of things, but primarily lifting and dragging. So a character can lift as much as their maximum load over their head. Character's maximum load is the highest amount of weight listed in the character's strength in the heavy column. A character can lift as much as double their maximum load off the ground, but he or she can only stagger around with it. While overloaded in this way, the character loses any dex bonus on AC and can only move 5 feet per round. A character can generally push or drag along the ground as much as 5 times their maximum load. Okay, so when we're talking about literally pushing or pulling your own weight, if you have a strength of 10, well, a character with a strength of 10 has a heavy load of 100, or can carry anywhere from 67 to 100, as a heavy load. Since most people are going to come in somewhere between approximately 120 to 200 pounds, accounting for, male-female variants, yeah, they can literally pull their own weight. But what we want to look at is, for example, if somebody can lift up like a literal ton, that is lifting 2,000 pounds off of the ground, which, by the way, I don't have the math in front of me right now. I looked it up at some point, but I was looking at Dragon Ball Z a long time ago and figuring out how I would scale it. The one thing that I decided I needed to do was to figure out, who is the absolute weakest of the Z fighters. Now, I realized that when I said that earlier, I said that Yamcha was the absolute weakest of the Z fighters, but that's not true. If we want to encompass all of the Z fighters, all of these superhuman people in Dragon Ball, there is one that most people don't think about, and that is Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi is a Z fighter. Most people don't think about her that much, but she is. Because back in Dragon Ball, not only is Chi-Chi a Z fighter, but she actually went toe-to-toe with Goku. As a child, mind you. But Chi-Chi used to travel with Goku. They used to fight dinosaurs and stuff together. Chi-Chi is absolutely a Z fighter. Now, she has been long since left behind, and she's retired. But that doesn't change the fact that she is probably either one of the strongest people on the planet, and she's probably, the weakest Z fighter. So how much can she lift? And I don't have the research in front of me right now. I did it a long time ago. But I seem to read somewhere that Chi-Chi can lift a ton. I mean, she is a Z fighter. She can lift a ton. Well, I can use that. Also, PC's here. Hello, PC. Says, are we building modular for invading Area 51? No, not yet. Not yet. We'll get to that, okay? You have to wait until we get to until the Naruto module to figure out exactly how we're going to storm Area 51. We need to do this first, though, okay? This is the prep work. So anyway, Chi-Chi can lift a ton off the ground. Well, okay. If a ton is 2,000 pounds, then that means that since lifting off the ground is only double, that means that the Chi-Chi's heavy carry must be 1,000 pounds. If we look down here, heavy, 10,000, or 1,000, excuse me. Right here. Strength 27. That's a really good number. Because we can just accurately say that, yeah, she's got that. And if we needed to scale Chi-Chi, we can. If we look at the rest of these, though, like most of your fighters and such are going to be like strength 18. So can break objects like wood with their bare hands. Again, we see people do that in real life. Now, usually it's not the strongest wood. I mean, they're not cracking petrified wood or anything like that. However, martial artists routinely like to break boards. It can be done. But are they lifting a car? Not usually. Then again, there are some people out there who can, lift 800 pounds. I don't know what the world record is right now for lift. Hold on. Would it be called a deadlift? Is that what it's called when you just lift weight off the floor? Deadlift world record. Yeah, so deadlift is where they have the barbell with the weights on the end. It says the official all-time raw deadlift world record is... Holy crap. Is this true? Hold on a second. Is this true? Wait. I need to find out. Oh my god, this is true. The current deadlift world record is 510 kilograms, or 1,124 pounds. And it was done by somebody named Hafþór Julius Bjornsson. Last year, in fact, at the World Deadlift Champions. And Peace says, I thought that was just a necromancer feat. It is actually not, although their deadlifts are awesome. 1,124 pounds deadlift. Holy hell. So if we go back to look at these numbers, this is like peak human, okay? This is somebody who is trained to do one thing and one thing only. So, if lifting off the ground, you can lift as much off the ground as double your max load, but you can only stand or stagger around with it. Alright, that's deadlifting. So we're going to take that number, 1,124, we're going to divide that by 2. So that's going to be 550 plus 12 is 62. 562 pounds for a heavy load. If we scroll down here, 562 is going to be... It's going to be strength of 25. A strength of 25. If we look at strength 24, we actually have a description for that one. It says, the pinnacle of brawn, able to outlift several people. Does that not describe what we were just looking at? So, when we say that Chi-Chi is going to clock in at about strength 27, again, this is actually right in line with real life. And she carries it like it's nothing. And then, of course, Dragon Ball Z characters are just going to go up from there. So, that's great for strength. I think that we have a really good thing here going for strength, and we can apply this across anime broadly. So let's look at dexterity. Dexterity is, like I said, it was, this is exploration. Oh, I need to go back. Okay. Dexterity, as I said, it's your armor class because it's your ability to avoid danger. It's your reflex save. It's also your ability to hit things at range, your accuracy. So, your normal 10, capable of usually catching a small tossed object, average human agility. Your fantasy characters who are going to have like an 18. So, light on their feet, able to often hit small moving targets at a distance, which is great. Let's see, PC says Chi-Chi's specialty is Intimidate. Look, she can multi-class. Now, this doesn't go as high because it doesn't really need to, but a dexterity of 20 to 21, graceful, able to flow from one action into another easily. Next up is very graceful, capable of doing dodging multiple thrown objects. We literally see this all the time in anime. People are hard to hit. 24 moves like water, reacting to all situations with almost no effort. And 32 to 33 which is a big jump but moves like the wind, capable of reactions unseen by mortals. Reaction time is virtually instantaneous. To give you an idea of what this is going to look like. That's where a lot of our people are going to be settling in. As far as Constitution goes, normal Constitution, 10. Occasionally contracts a mild sickness, average human healthiness. When we get into like fantasy characters, an 18 or 19, somebody capable of staying awake for days on end. Okay. That also includes able to labor for 12 hours a day most days. Can take a few hits. When we go up, very difficult to wear down, almost never feels fatigue. If that doesn't describe Goku, I don't know what does. The man gets winded and then comes back literally every time. He doesn't have a second wind, he's on like his 17th. 22, never gets sick, resistant to even the most virulent diseases. 24, virtually tireless, practically immune to mundane illnesses. And if we jump all the way up to 35, which is the Tarask, nearly immune to any level of fatigue, illness, disease, or infection. Such creatures' stamina is practically god level. So yeah, we'll get into that because there's a lot we can do with Constitution. But now we get into intelligence. Now, as Alden said, most of the anime protagonists are dumb as bricks. Okay, that's not entirely fair. But they're not the smartest people out there. And the people that are the smartest out there tend to not be like superhuman. So let's look at exactly what this means, because we do have examples of what geniuses look like. Obviously, Light Yagami is a genius. He is. Nobody's going to really contest that, I don't think. Lelouch V. Britannia is a genius. In Naruto, Shikamaru, Nara is a genius. They exist, but the geniuses are basically more like Sherlock Holmes. They are the absolute pinnacle of what somebody could really achieve if they were, just really smart. But it doesn't give them sudden psychic insight. There's nothing that they know that they're picking up that they couldn't have otherwise found, or that nobody else could have otherwise found if they had the same insight. So when we look at like intelligence, 10 knows what they need to get by. That describes most people. If you play Trivial Pursuit, that puts you automatically up to a level 12. If we look at an 18, though, an 18 is automatically genius level knowledge. They may invent new processes or uses for knowledge. Now, seeing as how this is the one that is literally described as genius level, we can use this as pretty much our baseline. At 20, highly knowledgeable, probably the smartest person many people know. So you're talking about somebody who is the smartest person in a community, maybe even a small city. At the next level, 22 to 23, able to make amazing leaps of logic. Again, this is where we get into things like the Sherlock Holmes characters, where they're capable of taking multiple data points that are seemingly unrelated and pull them together into one cohesive model. This does describe characters like Light Yagami. Maybe. Okay, that might be a little bit too generous for Light Yagami. It might be. But there are characters in anime that are like that. Still, though, this is the standard scale for Pathfinder. And none of this really needs to be adjusted, I don't think. 24 to 25 is world-famous levels of intelligence sought out for their advice constantly. Now, interestingly, we do have an example of this, but it's not a protagonist, it's an antagonist. Also from Death Note, this would be L. L and the organization that he works for, or that he runs, literally is world famous. It's in, it's underground, but L uses his intellect to work for entire nations because if they need something solved, they contact him. He is, at least in some circles, world famous. And then, of course, there's the fact that Light Yagami beats him, so does that put Light Yagami up here, or does it just make him lucky? Hard to tell. And then 32-33, another big jump, is just unfathomable intellect. The deal is here that this is already pretty well scaled, and I don't think we need to touch intelligence at all. Okay, the intelligence here I think already scales well. And I don't know a single anime character who goes above this. So, intelligence, no change. So let's go to wisdom. For wisdom, 10. Capable of planning and makes reasoned decisions most of the time. Alright, so if we're talking about the ability to plan things, this is where some things might kind of shake out, but I'm not sure. For example, taking a character like Naruto. Naruto is not described as being the smartest character in the show. However, there is something in most of the anime called a battle IQ. And it's their ability to adapt on the fly to a fight. Some people are better at it than others. Most of your main protagonists are absolute geniuses when it comes to battle. However, that also accurately reflects the table. The most common saying, or one of the most common sayings in tabletop gaming is, don't split the party. However, a close second to that is that most of your players can be absolute idiots at the table until initiative is rolled, and then suddenly everybody turns into Sun Tzu. Because your players might walk into a room and drink an unlabeled potion having no idea what it is, where it came from, or what it does, and then, as soon as, initiative is rolled, they begin planning the siege of Nobunaga Castle. It's bizarre, but it's true. As soon as the dice are rolled, everybody turns into their absolute most competent selves. It's annoying. It really is. So, does that fall under wisdom, though? Or is that just kind of an abstract thing that we don't need to worry about? I kind of think it's abstract. Alden says battle sense, though I don't think battle sense translates into reading body language. No, I'm not necessarily talking about battle sense. I'm talking about the idea of battle IQ, the ability to just fight good. Alden says, it's like they get a +3 wisdom when combat begins. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre. It's like everybody starts channeling their favorite dead generals. It's like, this guy's got Sun Tzu, this one's channeling Napoleon, that person over there has the spirit of Shaka Zulu, that one has Alexander the Great, which is why he's drunk. As soon as initiative is rolled, everyone is just like, okay, we got this. It's bizarre. I don't think that we need to use wisdom for this. When we look at 18 and 19, it says often looked to as a source of wisdom or as a counselor. Yeah, that's not most anime characters. That's a lot of side characters. It's not most characters. If we keep going up, reads people in situations very well, almost without effort. That one does kind of describe it. Let's see. Alden says maybe they can get a unique passive that explicitly states that. I don't know. When it comes to, like, wisdom... Okay. Intelligence and wisdom and charisma are kind of weird, okay? They're kind of weird because here's something that we also need to keep in mind. And this is something that I tell my players all the time. And I don't do this to be insulting, although it does come off as a little insulting. And I don't mean for it to, but it does. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. You can put as many points as you want into intelligence. You can put as many points as you want into wisdom. You can put as many points as you want into charisma. But when we actually sit down at the table, you cannot play a character who is smarter than you are. And that sounds, it sounds really mean when you say it, but I have to explain this one. You can make a character who has a 22 in intelligence. So this character speaks, let's see, the bonus for a 22 is going to be a +6. So a character with a 22 is going to start with common, and then they're going to speak an additional 6 languages at level 1. Okay? And that's fine. Mechanically speaking, that means that there's a lot more options open for your character. It also means that you're going to get a lot more on, like, knowledge checks, because you'll be able to recall more knowledge, which lets you ask me, as the GM, for more information. However, when it comes to the actual application of intelligence at the table, no matter how smart your character is, your character cannot be smarter than you are, because if you can't conceive it, neither can your character. And Blizz has to go. Well, I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Blizz. Thank you for coming out here. It was good to see you. Hopefully I'll see you next week here. And until then, take care. Getting back to intelligence, you can't play a character smarter than you, because if you can't conceive of it, they can't conceive of it. And let's get back to, for a moment here, with intelligence. No, I went too far. Right here. At intelligence of 22, able to make amazing leaps of logic. That's great on paper. But if I were to sit you down, because, I mean, this is, like I said, this is Sherlock Holmes level of intelligence. If I were to sit you down and feed you the information, the same way that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle would have done in a Sherlock Holmes novel, and he had a really, really good method of doing that I have tried to replicate Doyle's style unsuccessfully. I am still, and I'm like 40 years old, I am still trying to learn how to write mysteries. Because I haven't got it yet. Doyle's general rule of thumb when it came to writing Sherlock Holmes books was, whenever you present evidence, you needed to present evidence with 2 pieces of evidence and 1 red herring. And, for example, did anybody else see the Robert Downey Jr. movie, Sherlock Holmes? I love that movie. I really do. To give you an example, when Sherlock Holmes meets with Moriarty in the second movie, he meets Moriarty in school, because Moriarty's a professor. And as Sherlock is scanning the room, the scene will literally pan in on every aspect that he's looking at. And this is a genius move on the people that were making the movie, because you look at everything that he's looking at. You look at the blackboard, you look at the bookshelf, you look at the windows, you look at everything. When you look at that, every single thing that he put in there was for a reason. Because when you get to the end of it, one of the things that becomes important is the window box and the bookshelf. Why? Well, because the book on the bookshelf was actually used as a cipher. Now, how did we figure that out? Well, because the book was a book on horticulture. If you don't know what horticulture means, that's plant raising. And all of the flowers in the window box were dead. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, okay? I'm not this smart. I'm not. When I saw the book, first off, with my vision, I couldn't read the book, so that didn't help. I didn't understand what the book was, and I saw the plants in the window, and I didn't think anything of it, okay? Didn't think about the flowers in the window at all. It's a window box. Okay, it's got dead flowers. I didn't care. Just because my character is that smart does not mean that I can put those together. And this is why when I say that you cannot play a character that is smarter than you, is because you just literally can't. And I mean, I don't have a problem, I don't have a problem admitting that. I'm a very smart person. If I had to look at my intelligence and put myself on this list, I would say that I am probably somewhere between a 16 and an 18. I would love to say 18, but I don't know if I qualify as an 18. I'm probably a 16 or a 17, maybe pushing an 18 on some days. But doing this, I can't do this. And so even if my character is that smart, my character will never reach their full potential because I can't get them there. The same thing is true with wisdom. It says here that, with wisdom, I went too far down. A character with 18 and 19 wisdom often looked to as a source of wisdom or as a counselor. Yeah, that's not me. Somebody who reads situations and people fairly well, I can do that. I read situations pretty well. So yeah, I'm maybe like a 16 wisdom. Maybe 16, maybe a 15. I'm somewhere in there. And then we get to like charisma. A 10 in charisma understands most social conventions and acts relatively acceptable. I understand social conventions easily, yeah. 12, mildly interesting, usually knows what to say. Alright, I'm a 12, easily. 14, interesting, almost always knows what to say. I can hold a conversation with just about anyone. So let's see, the next one. Popular, receives greetings and conversations in the street. Yeah, that's definitely not me. I'm definitely not popular, nor do I talk to people on the street. I just don't. So, if I were to make a character that is, like 16, I'm already going to be in awkward territory. 18, immediately likable by many people, subject of favorable talk. I don't even like it when people talk about me. 20 to 21, life of the party, able to keep people entertained for hours. I can barely keep people entertained in a 2-hour live stream. So that's definitely not me. The point being that when it comes to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, you can't do these things if you're not capable of doing them in real life. There are some ways that you can leverage these. Obviously, If you have a high charisma and you can use things like diplomacy in game, you can kind of use the dice to force people to treat you favorably, which is ostensibly what they're meant to do. With intelligence, you can use your intelligence checks, your knowledge checks, to force me as the GM to give you information. That makes you, as a player, smarter. Alden says, honestly, I think it might be funny seeing some of the listed examples of creatures fitting these descriptions. I mean, like a Nightwing? So, a Nightwing is an undead extraplanar nightshade. It says, this enormous bat-like creature is shaped from utter darkness. Its eyes are tiny red stars in the blackest night. Environment and ecology. Here we go. The least of the known types of nightshade, the Nightwing is nevertheless a deadly foe. Nightwings often serve more powerful nightshades as aerial support. These nightshades are also more likely to be found serving a non-undead master. Nightwings are often used by powerful mortals as guardians and sentinels. Despite this, Nightwings still hope to someday slay any master they serve. They enter servitude primarily as a method of aiding a destructive or murderous mortal in their task of mass murder. Once this task is over, or if at any point the Nightwing believes its master is slacking in its murderous duties, it will swiftly turn on its one-time ally. A Nightwing is found in the material plane, is not in the employ of a more powerful master, is typically encountered in rugged terrains. Yeah, it doesn't really give me much more of a description. But, I mean, if we come down here to the statistics, Strength 31, Dex 18, no Constitution because it is undead, Intelligence of 18, Wisdom 21, Charisma 21. Coincidentally, Intelligence and Dexterity tied for lowest. It's a CR14 creature, though. I mean, don't take it lightly. Let's see. Alden says, a Kraken as the life of the party. I guess it would be one heck of a party. I mean, if you've heard the song from Ninja Sex Party, yeah, I'd party with that Kraken. I mean, there is more to it than that. Charisma is more than just, getting people to like you. It's also the influence that you have on people. Because, for what it's worth, if I come down here to skills, charisma is your primary attribute for the soft skills. So if you want to bluff is a charisma check. Okay, that makes sense. Diplomacy is a charisma check. Okay, that makes sense too. Intimidate is also a charisma check. I don't feel like the Kraken is really good at bluffing people, but I think it's got a really, really high intimidate. Like at least 1 or 2 points. Alright, so, getting back to the actual module, I don't think there's anything that we have to do for intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. I think these are going to be fine on their own. No change, and charisma, no change. Alright, so that takes care of the character creation side. We'll investigate each of these on their own in more detail in future streams. So that takes care of the character creation side. Things like hit points, stuff like that, we'll get into later. What else do we want? So if this is our character, we need to get into things that the characters can do. And so for that, we're going to want to get into how do I want to name this? JP says the Kraken would have barbarian stealth, intimidate them into silence. This is true. I'm usually a bigger fan of heavy stealth, though. The next thing we need to get into is going to be the basically spectacle attacks, I think. So, spectacle attacks, or abilities, or things like that. Basically just the big flashy things. We're going to need to work on things like charging. Like I said, I told you earlier, we will have charging mechanics. Is it going to take 1.5 sessions to charge something? No, probably not. However, it may take you several rounds to charge something up. And don't worry, I'm not going to make charging things necessarily required. However, I want the option to be there. I want you to have the option of spending a great deal of time actually charging up your attacks, because it's common across everything. So charging, clashing. We'll need attacks that can interact with each other. And that may make it so that we have a rather unique system. So, for example, if 2 attacks were to clash at the same time, then they would have to be launched at the same time, which means that we may have to make charge attacks that charge as a standard action and then release as a free action, so that you can hold it as long as you want until you decide to let it go. So we need charging, we need clashing. Something else we're going to need. We're going to need to have us some collateral damage. And JP is mocking me, saying spectacle attack, starts throwing eyewear. Is this because I'm wearing glasses? Anyway, collateral damage. Because when we look at all these things, when we look at all the big anime and what they're doing with their power, yeah, they destroy stuff. If it's something a bit more grounded like Full Metal Alchemist, they tend to be, knocking the walls out of buildings and stuff like that. But when you get into some of the bigger ones, like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach, things like that, they start carving up the literal landscape. So we're gonna need to have us some collateral damage. What else do we need under our spectacle attacks? Okay, let's come on. You guys can throw stuff in here too. What else do we need? We got charging, we've got clashing, collateral damage. I don't need to get into the actual power systems because those will come later on in each individual module. Again, this is a broad framework that's going to apply to everything. And all it says, oh man, I cannot imagine the Gurren Lagann scaling. Okay. So there are some things that even I cannot do. Gurren Lagann would be probably one of the greatest challenges that I ever had. And even then, like, here's the weird thing about Gurren Lagann. I could probably do Gurren Lagann. I probably could. But literally, once you get beyond a certain scale, like, forget collateral damage. Like, Gurren Lagann doesn't even have collateral damage after a certain point because you're talking about these giant mechs that are the size of star systems, galaxies, or even the universe itself. And at this point, there is no battlefield. Like, it's literally just you and your opponent And the rest of the universe doesn't exist anymore. So, believe it or not, there's not much for me to do except figure out where do I draw the line to where the environment stops being an environment and just becomes literal flavor. And then work out the power scaling of how many steps does it take until I get there. And yeah, I mean, that would actually be a lot easier than you think, because once I find that line, everything else after that doesn't really matter. Now it's just a one-on-one duel. But hey, I could do it. I could do it. Let's see. Alden says, what about random awakenings of abilities in high-stress situations? Interesting concept. I assume that you're talking about, like, Super Saiyan. I mean, yes, later on in Dragon Ball Z, everybody could turn Super Saiyan on a whim. But Goku's first transformation to Super Saiyan was when he was fighting Frieza, and Frieza had already killed several people. Frieza killed Vegeta, which nobody really cared about. Frieza killed Piccolo, Frieza killed Krillin, and Goku lost it. And that was the first time that he turned Super Saiyan. That's probably the clearest example I can think of what you're talking about. As far as random awakening of abilities, I can put that in. I can do that. But this may not be the most appropriate place for it. Transformation? This is probably not the place for it. Oh, I have an idea. I have an idea of what you're talking about. Desperation. Desperation abilities. Again, that might fit closer into the actual specific modules more than the framework. But we can make a note about it. We can make a note about it. At least we know that we need to have a desperation ability in there of some kind. Now, what does that look like? Well, obviously with Dragon Ball Z, a desperation ability could be transformation. Okay. What about some of the others, though? Thinking about some of these, and like, Naruto doesn't really have a desperation mode? No, it really doesn't. Characters that get pushed to the edge are just pushed to the edge. PC says, what about restraining your own abilities? Artificial caps requiring purposefully breaking them, like spelling your name backwards. I wonder if, are you referencing something specific? So, when it comes to, like, restraining abilities, the thing that I think about is people that have artificial blocks on them, which is not uncommon. Especially since when it comes to anime, breaking your own boundaries is a huge running theme. However, what you're specifically describing here is not something that needs to be mechanically done. That could be a character trait. And let me give you an example. Let me come back here and duplicate this tab. Let me duplicate this tab. PC says Alucard, restraint level 0. Okay. So that's interesting. That is... Alright. Technically speaking, there's two things we have to talk about there with Alucard and restraint level 0. First off, restraint level 0 would technically fall under the category of a transformation. Because, if anybody hasn't seen Hellsing, I should put like a big spoiler thing on here because I'm going to spoil just an absolute shit ton of things across this entire module. Actually, now that I think about it, I should have put a spoiler warning on literally everything. Yeah, every single module I've ever done should have come with a spoiler warning. Anyway, so when Alucard uses restraint level 0, he stops being Alucard and becomes Dracula. Literally, he reverts back to being Vlad Tepes Dracula from Wallachia. And so we can put this under a transformation, which means that although it may not feel right. Okay, this may not feel right, and you are allowed to feel awkward about this, but Alucard Restraint Level 0, mechanically speaking, is the same thing as Super Saiyan. Think about it for a moment, okay? I realize that what I said there sounds like heresy, but when Goku goes Super Saiyan, he amplifies his strength by, I forget if it's times 10 or if it's times 50. It's one of those. If it's times 8, I don't know. It literally multiplies. And then Goku gets access to new abilities. I mean, he gets the Aura, of course, which is great, but he also picks up new attacks along the way. I mean, not really for Goku. When Vegeta transforms to Super Saiyan, he gets an entirely new arsenal. Vegeta's normal attack is the Gallic Gun. As soon as he turns Super Saiyan, he uses Final Flash. He doesn't use Gallic Gun anymore. Why? Don't know, but he does. For, say, Alucard, as soon as he transforms, he gets stronger, obviously, but he also gains access to the ability to use all of these souls that he has been chowing down on for the last, 500 years. It's a transformation. And so it's not really a desperation move. The other side of that is the whole power nerf thing. And that is more narrative, and that's why I was going to get into something. So, once upon a time, I made a character because I always wanted to make one. I made a summoner. Okay? And why? Because of all the classes in the world, I think that summoner is my favorite. I don't play summoner as a rule, I play wizard. However, summoner is the first thing that I fell in love with in most games. It is the class that I play in almost all of my games. If you watch my Star Trek Online videos, I fly a carrier. If I play Terraria, I play summoner. I use pet classes all the time. But, summoner. So, summoners, by default, come with an Eidolon. The reason I talk about this is because the Eidolon has its own page. So, I'm going to read this verbatim. The Eidolon. A summoner begins play with the ability to summon to his side a powerful outsider called an Eidolon. The Eidolon forms a link with the summoner who, forever after, summons an aspect of the same creature. The Eidolon has the same alignment as the summoner that calls it and can speak all of their languages. They are treated as summoned creatures, except that they are not sent back to their home plane until reduced to a number of negative hit points equal to or greater than their constitution score. In addition, due to its tie to the summoner, an Eidolon can touch and attack creatures warded by protection from evil, and similar effects that prevent contact with summoned creatures. A summoner can summon his Eidolon, and this is the important part, in a ritual that takes 1 minute to perform. I tell you this because I made a character once. It was a catfolk, and I made the character a little bit silly. So he was an otherwise normal character. He was an adventurer. He's out there doing his thing. And he was a summoner. The thing about my character, though, is that he didn't know he was a summoner. And you may be saying, well, I don't get it. How does he not know he's a summoner? Because my character had an invisible friend. So my character, being a summoner ever since they were, wee little kitten, had an invisible friend. The only problem is that whenever my character spent 1 full minute uninterrupted talking to their invisible friend suddenly wasn't invisible anymore. And this, of course, led to all kinds of things because I wrote a whole backstory for this character. This character was essentially exiled from pretty much everywhere that he had gone because they would do things like on a ship, they would be below decks. And they would spend their time below decks, nothing else to do, talking to their invisible friend. And if they talked to their invisible friend for more than a minute, suddenly this 10 to 12 foot knight would show up. And if you're below decks on a ship, a wooden ship, mind you, and suddenly this armored 12-foot knight appears, it does things like break things, which usually gets you kicked off the boat. Now, I tell you this story, number one, because I love that character so very, very much, and I would love to play with that character again. And also to point out that it is not a requirement that a summoner spend 1 minute talking to their imaginary friend. It is a requirement that they spend 1 minute to perform a ritual, and that ritual can be whatever you want it to be. So when we talk about Alucard and the limit put on him for restraint level 0, there is nothing stopping Alucard from releasing restraint level 0. Except for one thing, and that is the Hellsing organization. So, whoever it was, I'm going to presume it was Van Helsing, given the name. Whenever Dracula entered into the Helsing's employ, that was probably a limitation put on Alucard by the organization. It's not a physical limitation, it's a procedural one. And so this is completely within your control as a player. If you would like to make it so that your character never uses more than X. So let's say that let's say that you have a character who has 30 strength. All right? 30 strength. That's a lot of strength. If we go back up here and look at 30 strength, 30 strength, here we go. 30 strength. That is the ability to carry up to 1,600 pounds over your head. It's a plus 10 modifier. I mean, we're talking about the strongest creatures to have ever existed. And if that doesn't describe Saiyans, I don't know what does. But if you were to tell me that you wanted to artificially cap your strength at 18, yeah. Why would I tell you no? It's your character. If you want to put an artificial limit on yourself to appear more normal, to appear more reserved, yes, I'll do that. I will absolutely do that. And I will even help you set up a separate character sheet if you want. One with your actual stats, and one with your normal stats. Because the way strength works, this is not just, how much you can carry. This is also your melee attack bonus. So instead of using the full 10, you could instead say, you know what? I really want to have a subdued version of my character who doesn't go above an 18. Okay, fine. In that case, we will just artificially limit you to this carrying weight. Your melee attack bonus will just be your base attack bonus plus 4. And your skills will all be the same because of it. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that right now. You don't even need the anime framework. Just talk to your GM. I'm sure that your GM would love the idea to play with this. Because then you can get reveals. Everybody loves reveals. You say, you know what? This isn't working. I'm going to pull out the I am not left-handed. I'm assuming everyone has seen The Princess Bride. This is essentially the left-handed system. You're intentionally playing with a weakened character. And then you simply say, okay, you know what? We're in trouble. I'm pulling out the other character sheet. And then suddenly, bam, superpower character. I love it. I think you can do it. But you don't need special rules for it. You just need to talk to your GM. Let's see. All right, what else did I miss? Because chat's kind of just been going. Let's see. Alden says, Random Awakening I can think of as JoJo Part 3. Jotaro randomly gains time manipulation powers in the finale. It's never foreshadowed, it just kind of happens, I guess. Yes! Yes, it does. And we call that a plot hole. Seriously, that was stupid. I mean, I watched the first 3 parts of JoJo. I tried watching part 4, but I couldn't get into it. And I mean, I really did try. But, yeah, that was bullshit. I like the idea of JoJo, and we could even do a JoJo module if you wanted to. But, no, nobody's gonna get, like, new powers just out of the blue like that. That's bad writing. Let's see. PC says, ooh, for desperation modes, look at the anime manga Reborn. I'm pretty sure you have recommended that to me before. Literally a thing in there called Deathperation mode, where everything about the main character becomes focused on solving something or die. I don't think that I need to necessarily write rules for that. I'm pretty sure that you're already in that situation. PC says it's exponential, I think. So I think Super Saiyan is exponential 10. No, it's not exponential. It's literally multipliers. I just don't remember what the I don't remember what the multipliers were. I can probably look that up on my phone real quick. Super Saiyan. If I could spell right, I hate this little keyboard. Super Saiyan. Multipliers. Here we go. I don't want the AI interview because I don't trust the AI. So I'll just go to the wiki here. Let's see, Goku. Alright, here we go. So the Ozaru, the giant monkey, is a times 10 multiplier. This is official multiplier. It is taken from the Daizenshu 7 of Dragon Ball, as well as a statement from Vegeta. Let's see. Kaioken, I think this is a multiplier of up to 25. Goku could damage and keep up with Lord Slug even more when he used Kaioken times 20. This still wasn't quite enough. This would make it, their multiplier, essentially half a Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan is a straight times 50. The bulked up mode that Vegeta and Trunks tried to use is essentially 62 times or 0.5. Or no, wait, this says Super Saiyan Grade 2, so SSJ2 is 62.5. Or no, wait, that was something different. It says here the official multiplier for SSJ2 using Gohan is times 100. The multiplier for Super Saiyan 3 officially stated to be 4 times stronger than Super Saiyan 2. That makes it 400 times. And then we can get into all the other ones. I'm not doing Dragon Ball right now, but you get the idea. They are all just straight multipliers. And as far as I know, they don't multiply off of each other. They're a multiple of base. So they should be really easy to scale. It's just that the numbers are going to get truly ridiculous when we do that because, I mean, if we take your strength, which is already like strength 30, and then multiply that by 400, that is a strength score of 12,000. And those numbers are absolutely ridiculous, but then we have to remember that Goku can bench press a planet. So, yeah, it works. Alright, where did I leave off? PC says, do you break things unintentionally? Are people avoiding you out of fear? I'm not sure which one that was in reference to. That might just been reference to, like, capping your character. I still think, though, that it's a great idea. PC says, get help. Talk to your GM today about Limit All. You heard it here first. Side effects of Limit All include drowsiness, fatigue, listlessness, and possibly death. Alden says different strokes for different folks. Yes, that is true. Like I said, I tried. I couldn't get into it. Actually, I'm not sure if it was part 4. Might have been part 4. I'm not positive anymore. Either way, the one that came after part 3, I couldn't get into it, I think. Or maybe it's the new one? Might have been the new one. I don't know. I haven't gone back to JoJo yet. Although I did like parts 1 through 3, and I could be convinced to do a JoJo module. I think it could be fun. Okay. So anyway, getting back to this. Desperation moves. Yeah, we can look into desperation moves. And Alden says, the number 4 usually comes after the number 3. The problem is, I don't remember who, like, the main character number 4 was. The one that I watched that I didn't like... Okay, the only way that I really know how to describe this is the Golden Wind one. I don't remember exactly which one that is, though. I just know that I really like the song Golden Wind, and I think that it went into that one. Or no, wait. Hold on. No, wait, I do remember this one, I think. Number 4, that had the main character who was, like, really, really obsessed with his own hair. Right? Part 4 was the guy that, or the one with the main character who just, like, don't touch the hair. Okay? Don't touch the hair, don't look at the hair, not the hair. Am I right on this one? Did I get it? Am I remembering right? I think I am. I didn't like that guy. Okay? I didn't like him. I didn't like him. I didn't want to hear from him. I didn't want to watch him. I found him just annoying and grating and yeah. Yeah, I didn't like that one. And so I didn't stick with it. And then part 5, I guess, is the one with the Golden Wind. I tried to watch that one too, and I couldn't get into it. It felt weird. It felt weird. It did not feel like the rest of them. Which maybe is more of my problem. That's probably more my problem, because I have to imagine that a lot of people that like maybe grew up with JoJo, when they got to part 3, they felt the same way about part 3 that I felt about part 4. Because parts 1 and 2 were a lot more grounded, especially with them having to learn how to use Hamon and everything else like that. And as soon as you get into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Hamon basically ceases to exist, and now we have these ghosts. And I gotta imagine that there was probably a lot of people that said, what the hell is this bullshit? I came here because I wanted to see people punch each other with the power of the sun. So I get it. And like you said, different strokes for different folks. Not everyone's gonna like everyone. Alright, so we've got a good start on this. We've got the spectacle attacks, possible transformations, although that's going to be more module specific, desperation moves. Is there anything else that we really need right now? We may come across things as we're working on them. But I think that covers pretty much everything that we do need to do. Mostly everything else is going to be covered in the modules. Like when it comes to building a Dragon Ball Z module, we're going to need all of this stuff. But the Dragon Ball Z module is the one that's going to say, what is key and how do you generate it? What are the key attacks? How does your character fly? All of those things will be Dragon Ball Z, or well, Dragon Ball specific. Same thing, we can take this and we can use this in, say, Bleach. Which, by the way, we are doing Bleach. Okay, we are doing it. Because it's one of my favorite anime, and I cannot wait to make Zanpakutos. But anyway, we're gonna need all of this for a Bleach module, but then we're gonna have to get into what makes a Shinigami, what makes a Zanpakuto, what makes a spirit, how do we do transformations, things like that. Alden says, yeah, I felt that way originally about stands. It felt weird, or it felt like a weird Pokemon battle rather than actual fights. But stands give room for creative abilities, so I think that ultimately they are a good thing. I tend to agree. I'm just saying that I can get where people came from. And so I just can imagine people when they saw the change, they're like, no, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. And me personally, I knew about, the whole stand thing before I even went back to watch part 1 and part 2. So for me, the whole idea of like Hamon, that felt weird. I was like, okay. I mean, I can understand the system. It seems weird, but like, this is a lot less punchy than I thought it would be. Until they started punching each other. Then it was exactly as punchy as I expected it to be. But yeah, a lot of other stuff is going to be covered as soon as we get into the other modules. So I think we're good here. And I may just end this stream a little bit early because I don't really have anything to add right now. When we get back into this properly, we'll start tackling these aspects one at a time. And I don't think this is going to be a particularly long stream, or a particularly long module, because it is just a framework. I want to go ahead and get through this so that we can start doing the actual other modules. I don't want to do like every anime ever. What anime would you like to see? Because like I want to do a Dragon Ball module, which shouldn't take that long actually. I don't think it will. Dragon Ball is pretty straightforward. I really want to do a Naruto module. I'm absolutely going to do a Bleach module. But what are modules that you would like to see when it comes to anime? because I will put them on the list and we can vote on these things. So just let me know in the chat what you want to see. JP says Akira. All right, we can look into Akira. The thing about Akira, though, there's not too much I got to do with Akira. The thing about Akira is that Akira takes place in modern times. They literally have cars and helicopters and motorcycles and stuff like that. Oh, JP says I was joking. I'm not joking. I mean, I can do that. It would be very short, because the only thing that I really have to do for Akira is figure out how do we do the what did they call them? They had a special name for all the psychic people, and I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what they called them. But yeah, I just have to make psychics. And frankly, we kind of already have psychics. I have psychics in both Pathfinder and in Starfinder, so I can do that. All right, so if you're joking about that, let's see. PC said BNA. Well, here's the weird thing. For BNA, there's not much that I have to do for BNA. Literally. The thing is, for BNA, the only thing that we need to do is everybody makes... Oh, crap, my chat's not updating. Oh no! There we go. For BNA, the only thing that we have to do for that setting, because BNA is absolutely modern day setting. So again, cars, planes, electricity, stuff like that. No laser weapons, no plasma weapons, stuff like, or anything. All it says BNA, brand new animal? Yes. I need a drink real quick. The only thing that we have to do for that one, though, is make 2 characters. Seriously. Everybody's going to make 2 characters. Everybody will make a human, and then everybody will make a beast of your choice. And you will literally be able to swap between them at will. The rest of it is all just the setting. So there are times when you are going to need to use your human form. At which point, you will look human, you will act human, you will lose access to things like teeth and claws and stuff like that. However, you can then, at will, simply switch back to your other character sheet, where you become whatever animal it was, and you gain access to everything that it had. If you're a feline, you've got access to teeth and claws. If you're a canine, you get access to a bite attack and scent. If you're an avian type, you gain access to claws and wings. But there's nothing really else that we need to do. I mean, I love the idea. I would love to run a BNA-themed game. But I don't need rules for that. I really don't. We could run that right now. So BNA is not going on the list. Not for a module, at least. It's absolutely on the list for a game to play, though. So, Alden said JoJo. Okay, but I have to ask. Does this count as a reference? No, I'm actually really good with JoJo. I think JoJo could be really interesting because... the thing about JoJo is it does take place in modern day. And the stand users, by and large, are generally speaking nothing too special. At least by, like, anime terms. I mean, at least from what I saw in parts 1 through 3, they're human. They're peak human, don't get me wrong, but they're just human. If you were to shoot them, they would die. If you beat them enough, they would die. If you hit them with a car, they would die. They're not exceptionally strong, fast, smart, or anything like that. Which means that we're not doing anything to people, we're essentially just building the stand system. And that has a lot of potential. That has a lot of potential. Because with stands, the only real limitation that we have on stands is the willpower and imagination of whoever the stand user is, which of course is going to be you as a player. JP says Cowboy Bebop. No point. We can play Cowboy Bebop right now in Starfinder. All I have to do is just tweak the weapons a little bit and add a jazz soundtrack. Okay, that's all I got to do. Alden says, the thing about JoJo is that stands don't have consistent rules. That's fine, though. Okay, because I can give them rules. While they do not have a lot of consistent rules, they do have a few. And the few rules that they do have are the important ones. So, for example, what are the rules for stands? Number 1, stands can only be seen by another stand user. Okay, that's a rule that we need. And it's a hard rule that it stands by every time. What's next? A stand is an extension of the stand user, to the point where the wounds of the stand do reflect upon the user. Now, stands are ridiculously tough, and so the wounds that are transferred to the user are generally not much. However, that being said, we could make it so that if they were hit hard enough, it would actually reflect upon the stand user. I don't know how I would do that off the top of my head, but it could be done. As far as like the diversity though, that's where we can have fun. Like I said, one of the modules that we're going to do is Bleach. And I know that Alden, you said that you're not familiar with Bleach. In Bleach, everyone that dies goes to a place called the Soul Society. However, some people are not ready to go when they die. The problem is that if they stay on Earth, they become a danger to people that are still living. And so the Soul Society has Shinigami, who will go to Earth to collect the souls that stay there and put down the ones who have gotten dangerous. That's the basic premise. Now, where this gets interesting is that every Shinigami carries a sword called a Zanpakuto. Inside every Zanpakuto is a spirit, and every Zanpakuto has 3 forms. The first is the sealed form, where it just looks like a sword. Okay, that's it. It's just a sword, it works like a sword, it's a sword. Then it has that's the sealed form. It has a released form after that, where the sword actually changes shape, and it becomes some aspect of the spirit. This is called the Shikai. And what the Shikai is entirely dependent on the spirit. And no two are alike. You also get 1 or 2 abilities that come with a Shikai, but that's for getting into the module. The last one is Bankai, the full release. And when a Bankai is used, the imagination is the limit, okay? There are so many different Bankai out there, and every single one of them is different. Some of them transform into a different weapon. Some of them transform into an entirely separate being. Some of them change the actual environment you're standing in. There is basically no rule when it comes to Zanpakutos, and that's part of what makes them great. So when you're talking about how stands have this incredible diversity, but like no rules, yeah, I'm kind of ready for that. I'm kind of ready for it. We can actually go through and do JoJo. We can make stands, we can make rules for them, while still doing everything we can to aspire to everything that we've seen on screen. Which, is what I've been doing ever since I started doing these modules. We know what we've seen, or read, or played, or whatever. We know what we want out of the character, and so I'm trying to bridge the gap between here's what the game says we can do, here's what we want to do, how do we get from one to the other? And I'm pretty good at this, I think. So, JoJo's on the list. JoJo's on the list. We can do JoJo. Other than that, did I miss anything? Let's see. JP said Akira. Alden said, side note, give Dungeon Messi a watch. I will look into it. I will look into it. JoJo fan, yes. JP said Aberrant. I've never heard of Aberrant before. I would have to look into it. 1B, 2Bs, 1B. 1B, 2Rs. Aberrant. I don't know what it is. Let's see. BNA we talked about. BNA I love, but we don't need special rules for it. I just need people that want to play it. Cowboy Bebop I just talked about. We don't need special rules for it. We just need a special setting for it. And yeah. No, that's it. I guess that's pretty much it as far as like anime that people are interested in. I mean, I suppose if anybody is watching this later and they want to leave something down in the comments, yeah, leave an anime down in the comments that you would like to see a module for, and I'll work on it. These are ones that I think will fit into what we're doing. Like, even the JoJo one is kind of, like, weird. But the way I think about it is, like, if we have stands, every stand is going to need to have a character sheet. And while, using Jotaro and Star Platinum as the example, Jotaro is nothing special. I mean, he's strong for a kid, he's pretty tough too, but he's just human. Jotaro, however, if I recall correctly, the ending of part 3 was when we got the infamous road roller meme. And when Dio threw the steamroller, well, not even a steamroller, the road roller at Jotaro, he used Star Platinum and his volley of punches to literally suspend the road roller in the air. Sorry about that. That means that Star Platinum has well over superhuman strength. So while we do not need these rules for Jotaro, we do need these rules for the stand. And that's why we need to do the framework before we can do JoJo. And yes, obviously, Dio threw the road roller at him, but Dio was unique. Dio was not human. So Dio doesn't have to play by the rules. You know, sucks to suck, I guess. So yeah, we can do that. Let's see. Alden also says that Star Platinum did catch a bullet point blank. Yeah, I remember that. That was like the first episode. Jotaro was literally in jail, grabbed somebody's pistol, put it to his head, and Star Platinum caught the bullet. That is insane speed. But again, that's where we're getting into, like, dexterity and speed bonuses. So we would need to find a way to make them literally faster than bullets. And interestingly, though, I mean, it's not like Star Platinum had to race from across the room to catch the bullet. Star Platinum literally just manifested in place and caught the bullet as it was coming out of the barrel. That is still an absolutely incredible feat, but it's not as incredible as having to, like, move faster than a bullet across a landscape. I mean, to put this in perspective, I'm sure that we've all seen people, I'm sure that people have all seen the arrow catch. Mythbusters even did an episode on it. I mean, everyone loves the Mythbusters, right? If you've not seen the episode on Mythbusters about the arrow catch, go watch it. It was absolutely possible for people to catch admittedly lower speed arrows. Okay? But if a human can catch arrows, and to do so, you know, reliably at low speeds, that means that somewhere in history, somebody probably caught an arrow. I'm sure it happened at least once. The point is, if we know that a stand is already going to be superhuman, the idea of catching a bullet, well within their grasp. Pun intended. So we can get into that later. We can get into that later, because we're going to need to do things like that, or have that kind of speed for all kinds of people. We have to have that kind of speed for all kinds of people. We need that for, you know, Dragon Ball fighters. We're going to need that for Naruto, because they literally move faster than the eye can see on a regular basis. Alright, so with that being done, we have a good foundation to start from. We're going to save this. Literally, I hit the save button. It's saved. It's ready. And PC says everyone can catch an arrow at least once. This is true. So we have something to start from here. We will start with this. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a challenge. Okay, I'm challenging myself here because this is not going to be an easy one to put together. These characters are going to break pretty much every GM rule that is in classic tabletop gaming. They are not going to be balanced. They are not going to be equal. We're going to break a lot of things. And then eventually someday we're going to break faces. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get out of here. As a note, there will not be a stream next week because I will be out of town. I'm sorry, but it's unavoidable. So, no stream next week. We will be back here in 2 weeks for the tabletop stream, and we'll start working on strength at that point. So, if you want to see that, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that we get notified every time these videos come out. I forgot to do my plugs at the beginning of this stream. I only just realized that. I had 1 week off and I forgot how to do my job. Anyway, if you know somebody else who's also big into anime or big into tabletop gaming, then share this video with them because there's going to be something in here for them to like. Otherwise, if you like me, you like what I'm doing here, leave a like on the stream, leave a comment down below, especially if there's an anime that you want to see done sometime in the future, throw it down there. Okay? I can't promise that everything is going to get done. Like we talked about, Rurouni Kenshin doesn't need a module. Death Note doesn't need a module. Cowboy Bebop doesn't need a module. BNA doesn't need a module. We can play those already. And if you want to, let me know down below. Or even better, go to the Discord because that's where we play. There's a link to the Discord in the description. So click on that link, go to the Discord, join us. Go to the Behind the Screen channel, tell me what you want to play. I have a whole list of modules, but even if I haven't done that module, tell me what you want to do. Tell me what you want to play, and I'll make it happen. Maybe it requires a module, and maybe we have to sit down and do a module together. Or maybe it's something that I can adapt instantly from the rules that we already have. So, let me know what you want to do. Hopefully I will see you in the Discord. Okay, hopefully I see you there. Hopefully I see you back here in a couple of weeks when we start working on the actual anime framework for character creation. And until then, thank you for coming, and take care.